Support for Consider This is provided by the University of Nebraska at Omaha College of Communication, Fine Arts, and Media.
Consider This, a program of issues and information behind today's news.
This cough just won't go away. Why am I so out of breath from doing simple chores?
These are symptoms of a serious chronic lung disease called COPD. If you're a smoker or ex-smoker over the age of 40 and experiencing symptoms, see your doctor and ask for a simple lung test called spirometry. The good news is the earlier you get treatment, the more you can do to improve it. Don't ignore the signs.
Hi everyone, I'm Kathy Wyatt. Welcome to this week's edition of Consider This. Our topic, COPD or chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Joining us to talk more about it are Jenna Yentis, a PhD with the Center for Research in Human Movement Viability at UNO's Biomechanics Research Building, and Mac O'Neill. Mac has COPD. Welcome to the two of you, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
You bet. Jenna, we're going to start with you.
Okay.
How do you define COPD?
Well, I'm not a clinician, but it is defined as a progressive lower respiratory disorder. So it's an umbrella term that includes a lot of other diseases or a combination of them, like emphysema, chronic bronchitis, asthma, those types of things. And it's usually characterized by increasing breathlessness. So lungs are elastic, and typically what's happening with COPD is the elastic components of the lungs are breaking down, and so air is becoming trapped in the lungs. So you can get air in, and then we have a figure, and so as you can see, as the air goes into the lung is not able to sort of recoil or go back to its original shape to exhale the air back out. So air becomes trapped in the lung, and so that's what causes the breathlessness.
Wow, and I think to give our viewers just a good idea here, we want to put up another slide, Jenna. So this is with COPD, this is without COPD. So obvious, other than the obvious stuff there, what's important to note, right?
What's important to note is they have sort of a blow up of, those tiny little airways and air sacs that are the small little components of the lung. And little interesting fact that if you were to lay out the surface area of the lungs, it's about the size of a tennis court. Yeah, little fact there. But anyhow, all of those little air sacs, you notice that they're tiny little sacs, but eventually in COPD, those break down and those aren't individual little sacs anymore. And so you don't get as much surface area then for gas exchanger for the oxygen and carbon dioxide to exchange.
Wow, signs and symptoms. So what do we see as being the red flags?
Those are usually, or what's most common is usually increased breathlessness and an increased or a chronic cough. Now a lot of people think that that's just a sign of aging. They think that that's the normal aging process. However, when that's not going away, you need to be speaking to your physician and start asking for a pulmonary function test, because it's really important to get that diagnosis as early as you can. So when that breathlessness isn't going away, the cough isn't going away, just ask for a simple test. It's called a spirometry test, and it's a very easy way in which they can diagnose COPD. Other signs and symptoms include things like tightening of the chest and wheezing, but the main ones are usually this breathlessness, you just can't seem to catch your breath, and a cough that just is persistent.
Okay, and the cause of COPD?
It's hard to group them all together, but the main causes are usually inhaling some sort of pollutant. So that could be anything from air pollution to an occupational type kind of pollutant, where if you're working around fumes or chemicals, dust, those types of things. A lot of people associate it with smoking. So smoking is one of the primary causes of COPD. Although with that being said, not everyone that smokes does get COPD, so there are a few that don't get it. Secondhand smoke. And then genetics. There are a few that there is one genetic link. So it can be passed genetically as well.
Wow, and all of this then increases the risks of what in a person's life then?
So like I said, I'm not a clinician, but the research has shown that if you have been diagnosed with COPD, you're at an increased risk for respiratory infections, so increased risk for colds, flus, pneumonia. There's also an increased risk for having heart disease, lung cancer, osteoporosis is another one. Depression is something else that comes along with the disease. So that it's not just this disease of the lungs, it does expand beyond that.
Which expands then, for some, into functional limitations. So talk about those then.
Very much so. So the disease definitely begins to affect just everyday life. Patients with COPD end up having these effects that affect their daily routines. They're not able to perform just simple activities, going out to get your mail or cooking or those types of things. So it starts to affect the way in which you move. So a lot of the work that we do is trying to look at those types of things, how you're moving in those functional parts of life, your walking patterns, your balance, your activity, those sorts of things.
Yeah, so this really does lead us to the heart of this interview, which is some really exciting stuff going on in your area. Take us back and we'll kind of journey through with you in terms of this really unique partnership that you have with UNMC. When did that start? How did it start, and where has it gone?
So I have this, you and I talked about this earlier, I have an unlikely partnership with a pulmonologist. So it's not likely that a biomechanist, which is what I am, I study the physics of human movement, would end up working with a pulmonologist. So how this came about was about 8 or 9 years ago. I was working with another individual here at UNO, and he said, there's a collaborator that I've always wanted to work with at the Med Center. His name is Dr. Stephen Renard. He's a pulmonologist over there. I'd like you to go over there and just meet him. So I scheduled an appointment with this extremely busy physician, and I go into his office, and he's the most kind and wonderful man, and he sits down in his office, and he has a rocking chair in his office, and he sits down in his rocking chair, and he's sitting there rocking back and forth, and he's like, so who are you? What are you doing here? And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I was like, I was sent over here to meet you. And so we just started talking, and I was like, can you tell me a little bit more about what you do? And he starts talking about COPD, and then he started telling me about how this disease led to these functional limitations. And in the back of my head, I started thinking, well, I wonder if they're not able to move around because there's something wrong with the muscular system, or if it's their balance or these other things. So he and I just started to bounce ideas off of each other, and he really took me under his wing and started to teach me about the disease, and I started to apply the things that I knew about human movement and started to apply them to a disease. And we've sort of gone on this journey of exploring how to. We know that we can't cure the disease, and we know that that's not our intent. Our intent is really to give patients with this disease the ability to maintain their lives. We want them to stay socially active. We want them to stay functionally active. So even when they're faced with that diagnosis, it's not, well, I'm just gonna, sit in my chair and not move around and stay tethered to my oxygen tank. I want to be out and be active and maintain my quality of life, and that's really our goal.
Well, you're very humble, because you said sort of go on a journey. I understand, and we're going to be talking with Mac, and we're going to be talking about some of your patient experiences as well. But this journey that led you here, you've received a few acknowledgments, have you not, for this groundbreaking work that the two of you have been doing?
We have. We have published a few papers. We've received a few grants, and we've received a few smaller awards. But we've received some acknowledgement for it. So it's very nice to get those things. But that's not the reason that I do that. I do that for people like Mac, because I don't know how you want to look at it, but after I started down this journey, my father actually was diagnosed with COPD. And so now I do it for I have another reason, I guess you could say, because it personally affects my life now as well. And so I think my dad gets irritated when I go home because I'm always like, you should stand up straight, you should do this, you should walk like this, are you exercising, are you doing this? And so I think he's a little frustrated with me as well. Probably is like, can you study something else now?
Well, I bring all of that up, Jenna, because I think sometimes people are reluctant to delve into realms, you know, that they're unsure of. And the fact that you went to go meet with this physician, uncertain, not knowing, and then years later, you're doing some extraordinary things and making a huge difference in the lives of others. One of those others sitting right next to you, Mac, welcome.
Thank you.
You bet.
Glad to be here.
Let's back up a little bit. First of all, tell us how you arrived here today, and then we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about your journey. So how did you meet Jenna and her students?
Well, I was recommended to come over and see them through a nurse at the Med Center. That I was there in a COPD program, and he asked me to come and work with Jenna in her program. And I came over, and they carried me through a couple of their testing programs. I didn't have any idea that it had anything to do with the COPD, but as they was working with me and showing me the various things that they do, it really became interesting and gave me a little bit more knowledge about what I could do and how it would affect me. So it worked out real good.
Wow. Take us back, Mac, if you would, to the time when you realized that this is truly what you were dealing with.
Well, you know, something surprising me on this, I didn't have any idea that I was being affected by this or having this. Just one day, all of a sudden, I couldn't breathe. You know, I didn't have any precursors to that, you know. And just one day I was trying to come from a store and got outside and I couldn't breathe. And I knew it was something wrong, so immediately I went to UNO and had them check me out, and they said I had COPD. And that's how it came about. And my life has been completely changed since, because I'm very active. I'm an elderly guy, but I am very active, or was. But this COPD just took all wheel, and you know, trying to get in the shower, and I can't get a shower done. I can't put my shoes on. So, I mean, this is how potent this is, and I'm not even in the worst stages of COPD. With me, it's just, I just can't do anything. So it just changed my whole life.
Well, talk about life before COPD, Mac. I mean, tell us who was Mac O'Neill?
Oh, I was out there. I was out there. I was very active. I did a lot of things. I worked a couple of different jobs at the same time. And then, you know, I was a partier at times, you know. And at my age, I mean, I'm quite a bit older guy, but you would think I was in my 30s or 40s or something. That's how active I was, you know. And I stayed up late and made all of my appointments and everything. I was just like doing things.
Yeah.
And now I'm just so disappointed because I can't do anything. You know, it just takes your will away from you. You know, I just don't have the will to, you know, to do anything. My family want me to come and go with them to different functions and things. I just, you know, just getting dressed is a major event for me. So
you're a guy on the move, very, very active, involved, really enjoying life.
Yes.
And you get out of your car one day,
and boom,
and you can't breathe.
Can't breathe.
And I guess what is going through your mind at that point? It's almost like one extreme to the other.
Yeah.
You know, you just within seconds, it seems your life changes. So what are you thinking at that time? What were you presuming was going on with you?
Well, after I talked to the doctors and they told me what I had, and it was something, a disease, you know, then I kind of could put my head around something, because I thought I was dying, you know, and then they said people can live quite a long life with this. And I immediately stopped smoking cigarettes, because I smoked cigarettes for 50, 60 years, and that's what brought mine on, I guess. And but I was so disappointed with myself for letting this happen to me, but I didn't know. I didn't have no idea that I was doing this to myself. And it took me so long, because I had tried to quit smoking before, not even thinking about COPD, but I couldn't. But as soon as I realized I had this, I quit the same day. I haven't had a cigarette since. And they told me it wasn't curable, but you can learn to live with it. So I've had it for about 10 years now. And my degrees of how bad it gets has been pretty level for the whole 10 years. So I haven't gotten to the stage of the oxygen, which is the next stage. And I'm hanging in there pretty good, but I'm just so disappointed that I can't. I want to be, you know, I want to be who I am, but I can't be. And I'm surrounded by a lot of people that still active, very active, like young people, and I just can't do anything, and it really gets to me. And that hurts me worse than anything.
Jenna, is it, I'm listening to Mac's story, and thank you for sharing that with us. When I met Mac, he looked like a relatively healthy guy. I mean, he doesn't seem to be an individual who is struggling as much as he's sharing with us that he is. Common? I mean, do we just, I would imagine some people a little more obvious than others, but he's really struggling.
Yes, I am.
To look at him sitting here, I would not, you know, I would not think that.
I would agree with you, and a lot of the things that he's saying are a lot of the reasons that we're doing what we're doing. I mean, to hear him say that he wants to still be active, and that's what he's really struggling with, is that he can't get out and participate in the things that he wants to do. That is why I do what I do, because that's the reason. I mean, I want him to be able to go out and if he wants to, I don't know what it is you want to do, but if he wants to go out and play bridge with his friends, or if he wants to go dancing, if he wants to go chase his grandkids in the park, that he should be able to do those things. So that's really critical to what we're doing and why we're doing what we're doing. And so, but it's just like any other disease. I mean, there, you know, you can't tell if someone doesn't have a thyroid that's not working. You can't tell if someone doesn't have a, you know, diabetes or something like that. I mean,
and I don't know. Excuse me, I don't know if it's so much of that, but my church is right next door to my apartment building, and it's just like maybe 50 feet or so in the walking distance. I don't even get to go because I can't. It just bugs me so that I can't walk over there. You know what I'm saying? And everybody that's following with me, they have to wait on me to get there. You know, I can't walk fast. I can't do anything. So it's, you know, it just takes so much out of you. Yes.
Also, so Jen is talking about why she does what she does. You've got Hope sitting right next to you, don't you?
Oh yeah.
Let's go through this process. We do have some photographs, Jenna, so we're going to go ahead and put those up, and you can reference those or just kind of story tell here in whatever way, shape, or form you think is most appropriate. But we'll start with this one.
Okay. So we have various individuals come into the laboratory, and in this photograph you can see we're setting up a piece of equipment on the chest of the individual, and what this piece of equipment is going to do is going to measure essentially gas exchange. So it's going to measure the amount of oxygen that they breathe in and the amount of carbon dioxide they breathe out. So I believe the next figure, there you go, is a mask then that's connected to that piece of equipment, and it's attached fully to their face, and there's a little turbine inside of it, and so it's basically going to measure those things, and it'll also measure flow. So you can see here we're fully attaching that piece of equipment. You'll also see that the individual in the photographs is wearing a suit, and you'll see why they're wearing this wrestling singlet in a moment. I believe the next figure has there we go. So in this figure, you'll see this is the actual protocol, and Mac has done this. You're walking on the treadmill, and we're measuring that gas exchange. So we're measuring how much oxygen they're breathing in and carbon dioxide they're breathing out. So we know exactly essentially how much they're using there. And in the far back there was some cameras, and then there was little markers on their body. And we'll go back. And so what we're doing is we're actually measuring the motion. So a lot of people see this type of technology for something like making video games or movies. We use it in a much different way, but it's the same technology. So we actually can monitor the movement of his body in a three-dimensional space and recreate that on our computer screens. And here's one of the students sitting with me. You can see those cameras again in the background. And we're all working together to monitor that. Wow. So It's quite the process, and that's only one of the few studies that we've done. We have several ongoing. So that one monitors. We're actually looking at how oxygen consumption and how that gas exchange is happening during walking at different speeds.
Wow, and Mac, you've been through this.
Yes.
This experience. So from your vantage point, talk to us about what you think is important for us to know in terms of what Jenna's been referencing.
Well, you have to know that you have this, and you have to pay attention to it, because it does have a great effect on your life. And these experiments that she took me through with these different actions that she had here with this breathing mask and all of these things, gave them a good idea about what was happening with me, and they let me know. And I've been following up on this, and it's given me a lot of knowledge about and helping me to deal with these problems that I'm having.
So let me ask you, Mac, how did they prep you for this? So you sign on somewhere, you say, I'll go,
Yeah.
Pick me, and then you go in. I would imagine there's a little bit of stuff that transpires before you actually get on a treadmill.
Well, they kind of explained it to me what the difference. They had the shoes, which was the shoes that had these little balls on them that it's kind of like being in the movies, really, because you could have these, and it had a screen on the wall, and it showed you every movement of every different part of your body and how it moves and how you react to these things. So it was very fascinating. You know, I didn't have the knowledge of what they were doing, but I was paying attention, and it was very interesting. Very interesting.
So you still involved?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So
Oh, yes.
what? So Jenna, so with someone like Mac, how does he know when he's done with this study? How do you know? Is there a beginning, middle, and an end, or is this just ongoing? How does that work with him?
I hope not to be done, because what they're doing, I'm interested in. Anytime she calls me for anything, I'm ready to go, because I think she's finding out a lot of things that I'll need to know, and things that will help me eventually. It says no cure for this, but I have a lot of faith in them, because, like I said, I've had this for 10 years, and my level have stayed steady. So I'm trying not to get any worse.
Yeah.
And so far, it's been working for me.
Let me ask you, Mac, the most important thing that Jenna and her team have taught you through these experiences. What's the greatest lesson learned for you in all of this?
Is to be patient, you know, and have some respect for the disease you got, because it really can do things to you. And if you work with it and listen to the things that they tell you to do, you can live forever with it, you know. So I feel pretty good, although I'm very disappointed that I got it.
You know, Mac, I'm going to turn the tables and ask Jenna the same question. I'm going to ask her, Jenna, you and your team, what do people like Mac teach you?
Oh, they teach us so much. I mean, Mac teaches us, one, to very much so respect what we're doing and have this sense of urgency as well in the work that we're doing. Research is a process. I mean, Mac comes forward and he volunteers, but it takes another 50 or 60 of Mac in order for us to get enough data, for us to publish that data, for us to make an impact. And then from there, we have to reproduce our study, and then to actually start to make waves and make a change in something that's going to be clinically applicable. And you asked earlier, you know, how does Mac know when he's done? We have consent forms. He goes through them, but he's participated in, I think, 3 different studies, and we have another one coming up, which is a large intervention study, which will take a year to complete. So we would need people to complete a study that's a year long. We haven't started enrolling for it, but we're gearing up for that. And so we've invented devices that we put on individuals, and we have them wear it and monitor them at home, hoping that we can see signs and symptoms earlier than a physician would, just because we would be monitoring individual things. But you learn so much. I mean, you learn history, you learn passion, you learn all kinds of things from everybody that comes in, and it's a wonderful experience. I mean, working with people like Mac, it just makes your day awesome. So it just makes everything else worth it.
Well, and you've said we quite a bit. This would be a good time for us to put up the team You know,
Oh, yeah.
it takes a village, right?
Yeah.
So, and I know, Mac, you're probably going to recognize some of these folks, so we'll go ahead and put up that
Yes, I do.
picture. Jenna and Mac, what comes to mind when you see these folks?
Well, these guys here, they're really nice people, and they make you feel very comfortable with what they're doing, because they had me doing some things that I just, with no harm in them, but it makes you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And you get something out of what they're in.
Yeah.
They're real beautiful people.
Like wearing that suit.
Like wearing that suit. Yeah, because I didn't want to put that on. Usually I do.
Nobody ever
But
wants
they
to wear
had
the
all these
suit.
little balls
Yeah.
on it, and then
Yeah.
when they show you on the wall what your body does, how it moves and things. Oh, it's
Yeah.
fascinating. Yeah. So I liked all that.
Yeah.
And I'll continue.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Appreciate it.
And
you
those students are the ones that make everything work. I can't do that by myself, and I have to have collaborators, and I have to have those students and those postdocs and those lab techs in order for me to accomplish the work I need to get done. It just doesn't work without them.
Wow, you mentioned the project coming up. Just briefly, in about 30 seconds or so, who are you looking for that?
We're looking for basically anyone that's had diagnosed with COPD over the age of 45.
Wow, okay. And what's next for you, Jenna?
We continue to work with our collaborators at Nebraska Medicine as well as other hospitals. We are entering a collaboration with Fremont Medical here pretty soon. So we're expanding into some more of the rural areas because a lot of those individuals need some help as well. And so we are submitting a new grant here in a couple weeks, so we're a little stressed about that one. And hopefully that gets funded from the federal government to keep our work going forward.
Okay, thank you. I want to put up a graphic for our viewers in the event that they want more information. Of course, today we're talking about COPD. You can go to UNMC's website, you can go to UNO's website, and Jenna's been referencing these research studies. That is actually her email address, jentis@unomaha.edu, 402-554-3251. Mac, we have 30 seconds. Final thoughts for our viewers.
Well, for me, this has been very enlightening. And actually, you guys made me feel like a rock star, as you said.
Yeah.
And all I'm suffering with this COPD, but this has been very, very enlightening for me. And I thank you very much.
Wow. And we want to thank the two of you for being here, and we want to wish you both very, very well as you move forward. Looks like a pretty good team effort going here. I don't know, Mac, you may be working there before you know it.
I know.
I hope so.
They may bring you on board. I was surprised not to see your face in that picture. Thank you both so much for being
Thank
here.
you for having us.
You bet.
Yeah.
And thank you all for watching. We'll see you next week.
Consider This is an issues and information program produced by UNO Television. More information can be found at unotv.unomaha.edu. If you'd like to share your comments about this show, call UNO TV at 402-554-2516 during regular business hours, or email us at considerthis@tvmail.unomaha.edu.